What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Welcome to a bonus episode of the Why Jesus podcast. I'm here with my cousin, Tony Gonzalez. I'm really excited because this is the first time that I'm interviewing somebody that I'm actually related to. So, Tony is somebody who I think we've been connected now on Facebook maybe like 5-6 years, right? And
Yeah, it's been a while.
when I first noticed him online, I was like, dang, I got a jacked cousin, like he is jacked. And then I found out his age and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, oh man, I'm doing something wrong. So we'll be talking about that today. But first, Tony, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I am blessed, man. I will say that I am blessed for sure.
Good, good. So I know we got a little lag in the video, but the audio is coming in good. So you guys in the chat, just let me know if the thing shuts down. All right. But so let's just jump into, I always, I always find it interesting how big families actually are. Right. And because my mother's mother passed away before I was born, and when my mother was very young, I think that's
Right.
definitely one of the reasons why I haven't met all of the Gonzalez's. I met a bunch of you guys when I was younger, but didn't really stay in contact. And it's really dope, like because I got to meet you, Sal. I actually got to go see Sal play
Yeah, that's awesome.
in Connecticut. He plays the drums, and that whole band
Yeah.
is incredible. And so it's just really been dope connecting with family. So. Tell us just a little bit for anybody who might be listening in, what that side of the family is like.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, we moved from New York to Florida when I was about 7. But what's amazing is I still have such great memories of going to my Uncle Joe's house, going to my Uncle Sal's house, Uncle Manny. Um, I'm sure you've met these guys.
Yeah, yeah. Uncle
Yeah.
Manny, we went up to his trailer in upstate New
In the
York.
Catskills?
Yeah,
Yeah.
before he passed away, we went there a
Right.
few times, and then we went up there to clean it out after he passed away, and
Okay.
it was crazy, right? Just a side note,
Yeah.
we're gonna go down. When we were cleaning everything out, people from up there like came out of the woodwork. Like it was. This is gonna sound really bad and negative, but it was like roaches. Just like roaches showed up. And I'm not saying that these people are like roaches. That's just what it looked like to me. While we're
Yeah.
throwing everything out, and they're like, "Oh, can we come in and take some stuff that you guys don't want?"
Oh,
And yeah, and we were like, okay, we're gonna throw it out anyway. But we just thought it was really
right.
weird. Like me and my brother were
That
like,
is weird.
that's super weird. But anyway, continue. My bad.
Yeah. No, so that side of the family, just from what I remember, like I said, we moved when I was about 7. We'd visit from time to time. I distinctly remember my Uncle Joe probably more than, any other of my uncles because he was such an interesting character. Um, have you met Uncle Joe? Remember Uncle Joe? Any
I
experiences with Uncle Joe?
Yes, when I got kicked out of my
Okay.
house, when I got kicked out of the house when I was 17, I like to say I left, but I actually stayed in his building for that
Okay.
summer on Elm Street. And
Hmm.
yeah, Joe is definitely an interesting character. We would
Yeah.
say that.
I think my last memory of Uncle Joe was me and my brother Joey were in New York City, and he was selling books on the corner. Typical of Uncle Joe. He was into everything,
Yeah.
and he didn't recognize me at first, and he was kind of rude to me. It was kind of funny. I said, "How much for the books?" And he looked at me like, "Yeah, you don't look like you can afford a book." And I was like, "Really, Uncle Joe?" And then he realized who I was, and it was wonderful. But um, man, I remember dinner at my grandmother's, Grandma Gonzalez's house. I remember her Afghan dogs, a lot of candles. Your typical, as a matter of fact, I don't know if you've heard of the comedian Sebastian Maniscalco.
No, I haven't.
You got to watch his special on Netflix, and I think the special. I have to figure out which one it is because he has 3. He describes my grandmother to a T. I laughed so hard during that part of the show because I'm like, you are talking about my grandmother right now, sneaking me money behind the couch and not telling, don't tell your parents. I don't know if she ever did that to you. So even down to what she wore. So I guess older Italian grandmas all wore the same thing. So Sebastian described her perfectly, and it just blew my mind. But as far as I don't have the greatest memory when it comes to when I was a child, but it's a very unique side of our family.
It's funny.
Uncle Manny, they all had their, personalities. My Uncle Sal, I looked up to because actually Uncle Sal was the fit one. He was into karate. He was always fit. He's still fit to this day. So I wonder if that's part of how I maybe got that uh, seed planted, for maybe staying fit, maybe seeing my Uncle Sal as a young kid.
That's possible. Just somebody named Uncle Sal, like that just sounds so powerful, Uncle
Yeah,
Sal.
Uncle
It's
Sal.
funny. So now that you said it was, the typical Italian, now I do know the comedian that you're talking about. He just did a movie with
Yeah.
Robert De Niro.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. So that's hilarious. So I want to talk about the fitness stuff. So we're going to circle back to
Okay.
that. But let's talk about how you became a Christian, right?
Mm.
Like, how did this happen? I'm always interested because my journey was such a long, crazy journey that I'm just always interested to hear how people came to Christ.
It's funny because I started dating Jennifer, and I was probably, man, 20, I want to say 27, 28 years old. Kind of grew up with the Catholic. If people asked me what I was, I would tell them I was a Catholic. Obviously, I just said it because that's what I was told growing up.
Yeah.
And then we started. Jennifer's mom and stepdad were going to a church. You may have heard of it, Calvary Chapel, Fort Lauderdale.
That's crazy. When I was living when I was living in Florida, I was going to Calvary Chapel, and now I'm at a Calvary Chapel here in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, yeah. Great church, a great teacher at the time. We won't go into that. And that's, where I went, and that's where I got saved. Um, and it didn't take much for me. I always believed in God. I always believed that, He was there. But, going to church and learning, it just confirmed it for me. And I accepted, fairly quickly. I was reading your story in your book, and it wasn't a struggle for me. It wasn't. I'm a very logical thinking person, and it very quickly made sense to me. So I just accepted Jesus, and I haven't looked back.
That's awesome, and it's so cool that that it happened at a Calvary
Yeah,
chapel. There's many stories like that about Calvary, and it's one of the reasons why it's trusted, right? Like why, and
right.
every Calvary chapel, it's a different pastor, it's different
Yeah,
system, but the theology is usually pretty much the same. But that's
right.
great that you were smarter than me, and and you got it quickly. So that's awesome, man. And shout out to Jennifer for you know bringing you to church. Meeting the right partner is so important in life, and not just meeting
Hmm.
them, but then like locking it down. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you could
Yeah.
meet the right partner and screw it up, but you were smart enough to lock it down. I think I was as well.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's jump into the fitness, man, because I know
Okay.
that it interests me, right? Seeing you, and you're, I know the title of this is Fit at 50, but you're 57, right?
Yeah. I'll be 58 October 5th.
That's incredible, right? And so take us all the way back to maybe the seed that Uncle Sal planted, and start us. When did you first get into fitness, or was it bodybuilding, or what exactly was it?
Well, it's funny. You just said that I'm 58, and it's so weird because this is such a normal part of my life that every once in a while I have to hear it from someone. I just heard it from a buddy of mine in the gym, Brandon. He said to me, he says, "Whenever I look at you, it doesn't even register that you're 57 years old, soon to be 58. So I wish everyone had this. I really do. But unfortunately, a lot of people putting fitness on the back burner. And, I posted something on my Facebook yesterday that I will personally never regret at least trying to be fit and healthy. But those of you who've never tried, you will regret it one day. It's coming.
That is a
You know,
fact. Not to cut
it's
you
coming.
off, not to cut you off, but that is so true. When my wife first started getting into fitness, she was worried about all the wrong things. A lot of women, they worry about the wrong things when it comes to
Yeah.
fitness, right? Like, oh, I don't want to look like a man. I don't want to this. I'm like, you're not going to look like a man,
I don't
right?
want to
Like,
get big and bulky.
yeah, I don't want to get big and bulky. That was it,
It's not
right?
going to happen. Yeah.
But I was like, look, Gio, it's not about how you look. That's a side effect of doing this stuff. You got to use your body. Like, if you do not use it, you're not going to, 20 years from now, you're going to be wishing that you could travel back in time, because once your muscles start to atrophy and you're not using them, it's very, very, very difficult to get them to grow and to get them to function in the way that they once did. So you have obviously just been consistent, and I'm sure you've had your seasons, you know what I mean? But you've obviously been more consistent than the majority of not even just America, but like the world. So when did it start for you? At what age?
So when I was around 23, it's funny, my dad bought us a weight set. Well, I don't know if he bought it or he found it, but anyway, we ended up with some, I don't know, you're younger than me, but the old plastic weights with the concrete poured into them and they eventually would crack
I know
and
what it
break.
is.
Do you remember these?
Yep,
Yeah.
I remember them.
So we had one of those on the back porch and kind of, started getting into working out. I tell you one thing that happened. We seen the movie Rocky, and I will never forget this because we jogged home from the theater all the way home, and it was a couple of miles. It was insane. But
You had
then
the
my
eye of
friends,
you had the eye of the tiger right
yeah,
there.
I had the eye of the tiger. It was crazy. We started boxing. We built a ring in the field behind our house. My parents, for some crazy reason, thought it was a good idea to buy us boxing gloves, and I don't need to tell you how that went eventually with all the kids in the neighborhood. I wish we had iPhones back then because we'd have some viral videos. Um, but then my friend Steve's dad bought him like a real, good weight set with steel weights and a bench, and I just got hooked, man. And I will say this: my reasons for training have changed over the years. When I was younger, it was all about aesthetics. It was all about how I looked. Um, that's still an important part of it, but now I just want to be. You said nothing's off the table, right?
Nah, nothing's off the table. You could say whatever you want.
Okay. I I want to be a sexy beast for my wife.
That is so
This is
that's
part of the motivation.
I was about to
But at
say
the same, but yeah,
let's stay right there for a bit, right? Because
okay.
this is also something that, like, within the Christian community, that needs to be talked about, right? So
Mm,
I look at part of being dedicated to my wife is making sure that I am in shape and I am appealing and attractive to my
mm.
wife. And my wife feels the same
Imagine that.
exact way. She feels the
Yeah.
same way that she wants to stay in shape to be attractive for me as well. And, for the fitness and to be able, she's super into like the fitness stuff now, but she was like not for it. But that is being dedicated to your spouse. So
Right.
let's talk about that for a second. Because there are, so one, men's eyes wander, right? But so can a woman's. So if the flesh is always going to be the flesh, right? Wouldn't you want the eyes wandering to your spouse, right? Like,
Yeah,
wouldn't,
100%. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I want my wife's eyes wandering my way, like
Right.
that's
Yeah.
that's that's it. So let's talk about that right there for a second. How important do you think that is?
Me? It's super important. It's not the most important, and a lot of people, uh, man, they get it mixed up a lot with me, and I have to explain it to them. Listen, I'm not saying it's the most important thing. Obviously, treating your spouse right, loving your spouse, just being an overall good husband is
Yes.
important. But if you want to tell me that how we look aesthetically is no longer, boy, it was sure important in the beginning. That's crazy. And now you don't think it's important. And I think what happens is people get lazy, they get comfortable, and I think a lot of men do this. And I've been called arrogant in my life many times, and I was just telling my wife about this. Um, what I consider to be arrogant is a husband that completely, and I'm going to preface by saying no judgment, I'm just a husband that lets himself go completely, yet still expects his wife to be physically attracted to him. I personally think that's more arrogant because you don't have to do any work, and now you still expect that same energy. No, I don't think that's how it works. I think it's important. I think it may be a little superficial at times, but I just think I tell people all the time there's no negative sides to being fit and in shape. None. Zero.
Amen. And
I want to keep this PG. So
yeah, yeah, no, we that is something we definitely have to do is keep it PG. But because YouTube throws everything not PG out unless it
oh
is
yeah, yeah,
more alphabet. But that's a whole other it's a whole other conversation. So
yeah.
so that is, I'm glad that we spoke about that because it's just super important. And I like what you said there about how people will, and it's just jealousy. It's straight up jealousy when people, like how I'm jealous of neighbors who don't have dogs that bark, right? So it's
One of my biggest
jealousy.
pet peeves.
Yeah. We were literally just looking at property like somewhere in the mountains because I'm like, yo, I just need peace and quiet.
Yeah.
But it is definitely arrogant. And what you said there about what's really arrogant is you thinking you don't have to do anything to be physically attractive, yet you're still expecting your spouse to be attracted to you and to please you in a
Yeah.
physical way. Like how are you
That's
expecting?
wild.
Yeah, how are you expecting
Right.
somebody to be physical when you're not physically attractive, right? And that obviously looks different for other people. Some people are attractive to,
Of
they
course.
don't like the
Yeah.
fit thing, but that's
Yeah.
that's a that's a conversation you got to have with your spouse. So let's get into because there's younger people that listen to this, and then there's older people that listen to this. Let's just talk about how it is somebody who's young and getting into fitness. They might have all of this energy right now, and then maybe they have a kid. Then they get married. Hopefully the former comes. The latter comes first. Then
Right.
they
Right.
got their career. Then they got maybe their hobbies, like me with YouTube and stuff that they're into. How does somebody stay consistent through all of that and prioritize fitness, even when it seems like all these other priorities should be taking precedence over it?
There are some people. I have friends that I said, "Listen, man, I'll give you a pass because your life is absolutely crazy." So I don't give a lot of people passes, but I do give a very few of my friends a pass. But I always tell them you can still control what you eat. You can still control at least the nutrition side of it, which is 80% anyway. But I think if you got to find the time, you got to find the time. And if you follow me at all on Facebook, I am I am so focused on living in the present moment, but also realizing that if the good Lord allows you to live long enough, that bill's coming. So you can pay now or you can pay later. And I always, people say to me all the time, well, it's not, something could happen to you. I'm like, well, yeah, of course, yeah, something I could, God forbid, get sick and die in a couple of years. I mean, but at least I tried. I asked a question on my Facebook page the other day. Um, you know, are you at least trying at the present moment? What are you doing presently to prepare yourself for a future, physically? And it's not a question that a lot of people like to answer, you know. So if a young person, I would say, make the time, take a half hour out of your day. And I tell people all the time, you don't have to join a gym. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. You don't have to stand on a stage like I've done. You just have to move. Give yourself a half hour, 4, 5, 6 days a week if you can, and just move. Move.
Yeah, it's something as simple as like just doing some jumping jacks, just doing some push-ups. Just so when my wife first started her fitness journey, she was so mad that she could not do a push-up, like a legit,
Oh,
not the lady push-ups, but like an
yeah, yeah, yeah.
actual legit push-up. She was so mad that she just did push-ups every day, right? And started on her knees doing the push-ups every
Yeah,
day, and then she finally got to one like regular push-up, and she now she can do like 20, right? And but it
that's how
was
it works.
yeah, but it was just that she didn't really do much other working out at first. But she was just like, nah, I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna stretch. I'm gonna do that and I'm gonna, maybe some squats. I'm gonna do that. But she was so determined. And it was so awesome to watch because it's like right in front of me unfolding how you can, no matter how long you've waited to start, you can start and see the results, and
Absolutely.
being strong is so important. Let's talk about that, right? You don't have to be um, like jacked, right? But just a general amount of strength for your body weight is so important because if you've ever been in a situation where you got to move and you haven't moved in a very long time,
Yeah,
you're screwed, right?
you're in
Like,
trouble.
yeah.
Yeah,
So let's talk
yeah,
about,
yeah,
making sure that you move, also making sure that you do a little bit of strength training just for functional reasons.
yeah. Well, what a lot of people don't realize, and there's been studies done recently that strength training, weight training, actually builds strong bones, believe it or not. And the reason why a lot of women, older women in their 60s and 70s, become so brittle is because most women don't weight train. And so now the research is showing if you want to have good balance, and if you want to have strong bones and strong muscles, you have to incorporate some sort of weight training into your daily activity. I listen. I can talk about this because my wife, she's not going to get mad at me, but this is a constant battle with my wife, and I have been telling my wife for the last 10 years, you're going to wake up one day and you're going to be 50. And when you hit 50, not saying that's the magic number, but you may look in the mirror and you may not like what you see, and it's going to be that much harder to get started at 50. And the interesting part is my wife is going to be 49 in September. So it's coming, and unfortunately, now my wife looks amazing.
Yeah, I was
It's
I was about to
incredible.
say she
It's
looks like
just
she's in good shape.
and people just assume she works out, and she gets away with it, and it blows my mind that she really honestly doesn't work out very much, and she looks amazing. But I told her, I don't even care about that part. I want you to be healthy and strong, and I want you to be around for a long time, for your grandkids, for me. So, and it's just super important for me, man. And I can't even put my finger on why. I just know how I feel as a 57-year-old man. I am in better shape at 57 than I was at 27, 37, and 47. And it's because I'm consistent. And let me know if I'm rambling too much. You can always just cut me off. But
Nah, man.
I, I, I can't imagine living any other way.
Yeah, and hearing you say that of like like, man, I'm in better shape now at 57 than I was at 27, 37. It's it is the consistency, because I know when I'm being consistent in the gym, I not only look it, right, but I feel it. And
Yeah.
for me, since I've boxed before, I know what like good shape feels like, right?
I've seen
And
it. I've seen your boxing videos. Yeah.
yeah, and like whenever you're not, especially when your endurance is up and everything, whenever it's not at that peak level, you know it, and you know it immediately. And then when it drops below like a maintenance level, for me, I'm like, oh nah, I gotta start
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
I gotta get back
Yeah.
in it. I
Yeah.
do a lot of moving around, right? Like, I'm always on the
Yeah.
move doing something. And I can allow like I give myself excuses sometimes, but then I'll give myself an excuse for so long, then I'll feel it and I'm like, John, you idiot. You could have
Yeah.
avoided this moment. Had you just done a little bit every single day, you could have avoided this moment right here. So yeah.
Well, and the most important side of this. See, I think, I look at it this way: weight training and being in the gym 6 days a week. That for me is a bonus. It for me, honestly, I know it's going to sound crazy. That's the easy part. Um, Thankfully, because I love it so much, and the way I feel. I tell people I come alive. I come alive in the gym, but what people struggle with the most is the eating side of it. And every once in a
Yes.
while, I'll allow myself, maybe if we go on vacation, and I'll kind of eat crappy for a couple of days. I feel so awful, so sluggish. And I say to myself, how do people walk around like this every day? And I think it becomes so normal to them that they just think that's how life's supposed to be. And let me throw this in there real quick for any men out there that are approaching 40, because I don't know why 40 seems to be that magic number. I want to speak directly to men that are in their 40s or going to hit 40 soon. Life's not over after 40. That is a lie you have been told for some reason all your life, and it's a lie that you've convinced yourself is true. And the whole once you hit 40, everything's downhill. That is a complete and utter lie. And like I said, I look and feel better at 57 than I did any other time in my life. So if any of you guys are out there listening and you see this video, it's not over at 40. If you're smart, it can start at 40 and go up. I mean, I want to keep it clean here, but let me tell you something, guys. Every part of my life, and I know we're on YouTube, I'll call it private time, is better now than it's ever been. And it's mainly due to being a fit, healthy person.
So let's talk about that over 40 thing, right? Because there might be people who, and what you're saying is important too, because I've heard all of that stuff, like, oh, you start losing it and blah blah blah. These are things that men
Yeah.
men worry about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about somebody who may be approaching 40 and they're like, I haven't really worked out, I haven't really done much. What is something that you would suggest for them to do? Obviously, get their eating right. That's right off the bat. But for
Yeah.
some people, that's easier than I'm going to the gym. Like, the gym is a curse word for some people. So,
Yeah.
what advice would you give somebody who may be 40 and maybe not severely overweight, but is looking at themselves like, dang, I got to do something now? How would you start them on a journey that they can be consistent with to 57,
Well, what I love about technology, we have Google. We have, I would tell a guy, what, you don't know what to do? Go on YouTube and type in, how do I start dieting at 40? And there's a ton of free videos out there. There's some guy that's already done the work. You can watch a video for free. So, my advice is make a decision and realize your self-worth. You're worthy of a good, healthy lifestyle. You're worthy of it. A lot of people, listen, if you don't feel you're worthy of something, you're not going to work for it. And a lot of people have convinced themselves going back to a lot of men just convince themselves that after 40, it's over. Are you kidding me? It's not over. It could be just beginning. My advice would be to start educating yourself. Meal prepping is so easy. It's convenient. Listen, there are businesses out there that will deliver it to your doorstep. You have zero excuses as to why you can't do this. Zero. Now, I understand that some people maybe don't have the money to buy a meal plan online or go to a local place. A lot of places out there that's what they do now. You walk in, you grab the meals in the containers, and you go home. My freezer right now, I had one before I got on here tonight. My freezer in the garage is full. Anytime I need a meal, I just go out there and grab it. Now, for some people, it may be too expensive, but you know what? You can go and you can buy a bag of chicken, you can buy some white rice, you can buy some vegetables, and you can do it at home by yourself. So educate yourself a little bit and just, but you have to have a why. Why do you want to do it? I'm big on whys. Why am I doing what I'm doing? If you can, understand why you want to start eating healthy and why you want to start being in shape, that's going to help you.
Yeah, definitely. If you don't have a target or a reason to push you when things get tough, it's going to be difficult to continue. But I like what you said there about you could just, with technology, you could just Google, hey, how do I start dieting at 40? Hey, how do I start working out at 40? Like people have done the work.
Zero excuses.
And they've done it. How important do you think it is? I mean, I'm a self-motivated person, right? Like I just am, but I know that not everybody is. How do you think it's important to find somebody to kind of like push you along, or do you think the only way you're going to get it done is if you personally decide to do it? Because then you're kind of like maybe relying on somebody.
I don't like the idea of relying on someone, and I'll tell you why. Because motivation will get you there. Discipline will keep you there. 66, and these stats may have changed, 66% of people that join gyms eventually just quit. 66.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all you got to do is go to the gym on January 1st and then wait until February, and it's blatantly obvious.
And I think we live in a world where everything is just, man, I ordered something off Amazon. It was at my house. It's at my house in 2 days. It's crazy. So what happens with a lot of people is, I had a client one time. She said to me, she wanted to know how quickly she could lose the weight. I said, well, how long did it take you to put it on? And she said, 8 years. I said, and you think you're going to lose it in 8 weeks? It doesn't work that way. And what blows my mind is, this is what I love about technology. I love about Facebook. And every once in a while, I'll push that button on my page and ask those specific questions. And because I know, and my questions a lot of time are not for the people that are going to go, yes, I do that. It's for the person reading it. That's like, I asked the other day, when was the last time you weight trained? That's not for the people that are going to get on there and say yesterday.
Yeah.
It's for those that are reading it that are like, it's been 20 years. It's for those people, But consistency is the biggest reason why most people just never achieve it. And that's with anything.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. So let's kind of shift gears a little bit, because we're coming up on about 20 more minutes left in this. And I could talk fitness with you all day. I think that anybody listening has gotten some basic some basic things that they can do to kind of to kind of get started. And not only that, but we've definitely given them some reason as to why it's important to get started. Yeah. Right. So
if they want some some videos to check out, they can always go on TikTok, look up Old Man Muscle. I think it's Old Man Muscle 01, and you can follow me on TikTok, and I can help you there.
You guys should definitely check out the podcast that they have, him and Jen.
Well, YouTube.
As well. YouTube. Yep. So we'll be leaving all those links in the description of the video. And if you're listening to this on, Apple a podcast or whatever streaming service. We'll put that in the links as well. So let's shift. So Tony, you were one of the first people that bought my book, right? And you made a video promoting it, and I always appreciate that so much because it's tough to promote. It really is.
Yeah.
And you said to me, you're like, John, I got some things to say about the law of attraction, and I was like, well, don't tell me now. Let's wait till we're live. So let's talk about this, because you'll also find this manifestation crap in the fitness world, right? Like this whole, I listened to, in my research for the book, I listened and read The Secret way too many times. If you guys don't know what The Secret is, it's like one of the most popular law of attraction books. So there's a section of it called The Secret to Health, right? And this lady says that she doesn't have to work out. She doesn't have to do anything. As long as she doesn't think fat thoughts, she won't get fat. And I'm like, if this doesn't fail the logic test, I don't know what does. So let's talk about it, man.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's funny. I'm about halfway through your book, and I think my questions may have changed. No, I'm a very positive thinker.
Yes.
Now, I wouldn't consider that agreeing with the law of attraction.
No.
But I will tell you, and this is just my experience. When I was 27 years old, I was not raised in a very positive environment growing up. It was somewhat negative. So I had a lot of negative thoughts as a young person. I always just was always waiting for something bad to happen, these typical things. And to this day, I still don't know who gave me the book, but the name of the book is The Power of Positive Thinking. I'm sure you've heard of it, and hopefully you've read it. I don't know.
Norman Vincent Peale.
Norman Vincent Peale.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, what I really liked about the book is there's a lot of scripture in the book. But it changed my thinking. And the one thing I always tell people that I got from the book, and it's not a law of, I don't think it's a law of attraction type style book.
It's like a disguised law of attraction book.
Well, what it did teach me, is that anytime a negative thought comes into my brain, I would just replace it with a positive thought. And for me, that changed, the way my life was going. That's really the only thing that I can say about the book.
Yeah, so I'm so for positive thinking over negative thinking. It wasn't necessarily the law of attraction that first got me on this positive thinking journey, because I still do tell people that positive thinking is super important, right? Like you have to look for the positive in everything, and you don't ignore the negative, but you don't harp on it, right? Like you don't sit there dwelling in the negative. That is practically speaking, it's like one of the worst things you could do, right? So, like I'm all for that stuff. And as you read the book, you understand this. What bothers me the most about the law of attraction is thinking that me, myself, has some control over the universe, right? And that like if I'm going to think positive thoughts, it's not just a good practical thing to do. It is you're controlling the universe. And to me, that's sorcery, which is condemned in the Bible, So, but yeah, man. And positive thinking it helps you push through such tough times, right? I mean, Jesus helps me push through everything, but there's, we are to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And the more that we focus on Christ, the more positive I become. Right. And also,
absolutely. Yeah.
There's also a good book written by a couple Christian authors called, Telling Yourself the Truth. Right. And it's all about, they differentiate between a negative thought and a misbelief. Right. So if you're, Tony, if you're telling yourself like, man, I know I'm working out all this time, but like I'm I'm not spending as much time with my wife as I should be because I'm in the gym. Like, that's just a misbelief. That's not true.
Right.
It's just complete nonsense. So you have to replace the misbelief and replace it with something good. You don't just ignore it. You replace it and you say, no, the reason I'm in the gym is for my wife. So I'm healthy
Yeah.
for my
You're
wife,
around longer. Yeah.
So yeah, man. And let's harp on that. If we can dig in a little bit, growing up in a negative environment and how that can impact your thinking. How was your life? How were you as a person when you were focusing on the negative and not the positive?
I think there was always, well, I don't think I had a lot of self-worth. I also thought that, um, looking at my parents' relationship, that I thought that's how it goes. This is marriage. This is what marriage looks like. So I didn't allow that. So the positive thing was, no, I'm not going to do that. I won't allow that in my life. And I will make a conscious decision to be in a relationship that is actually the opposite of what I witnessed growing up. Not to throw shade on my parents. I think my
Yeah, yeah,
parents did the best they could. I'm grateful. I mean, hey, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. I just, I I didn't see a lot of affection growing up. I didn't see a lot of words of affirmation. I just, it's just it is what it is. It was what it was. But I made it a um, I wasn't gonna put up with that nonsense. So I made that conscious decision, and I'm not saying that's never been a part of my marriage to Jennifer. We've had some dark times, but I just set some standards, and we don't. There are certain things I'm not going to tolerate.
yeah.
We're gonna talk about things. We're gonna be open with each other, and we're gonna have a great relationship.
Yeah, and a great relationship doesn't mean it's perfect all the time. And I agree with you. My parents growing up, it was a super negative environment. I was negative my whole entire life, like angry at the world, not only because of,
Mm.
the divorce and stuff like that, but it carried into everything that I did, this negativity. So getting introduced to, you know, the fact that you can focus on the positive and not the negative was some life-changing stuff for me. So I I like I said, I'm in agreement with positive thinking, as long as we are doing it for the practical reasons. And it's so
Right.
inspiring to hear, that you witness your parents have a, tough time, and everybody goes through some tough times, but that instead of saying, hey, that's how marriage is, and carrying that into a marriage, you said, hey, that's not how marriage has to be. That's how one
Right.
marriage was, and
Right.
we're gonna do things differently here and set a different
Yeah.
precedent for the future.
Right. Yeah, because it's funny because I think of what my son Anthony, who has three children, and will have three grandkids. I see uh, how he is with his wife, and I see it's a reflection of what he watched growing up. My daughter is very affectionate, very loving with her boyfriend, and I think it's because this is what she has witnessed. I think sometimes we embarrass her, my wife and I, you know, and that's okay. But I want to set that example.
I think that's so awesome that you can also see it. You're looking at your kids, and sometimes when you're in a marriage, I'm young in marriage right now. I'm 2 years in, right? So,
Yeah.
but I look forward to seeing if we set a good example for our kids, and it's dope that you get to witness. Wow, we us setting the right example has set the bar in the right place, and now my son is being a good husband and a good father, and it's so awesome to watch, to
Yeah,
hear that you get to witness that.
for
So
sure.
You're probably the most jacked grandfather I've ever seen.
You know, like again, this is just so normal for me that when I hear things like that, um, it kind of you're right.
Do you,
I said to my wife, yeah, I said to my wife yesterday, I said, I wonder how many 57-year-old men can squat 435. And she looked at me and she's like, I don't know, 8%. And I'm like, I think it's like 1%.
that was a good
But
shot though. 8%. That was a really good
yeah,
shot.
I was like, where did you get that from?
Chat
you,
GPT. I went on Chat GPT.
oh yeah. No, and I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
You know, part of the reason why I have a TikTok is because my goal, and I know we're getting back into the fitness thing, but my goal is to inspire men. My goal is to convince men that they've been lied to. They've convinced themselves of certain things that are just simply not true. But I had a guy come up to me the other day. I was at work, and I didn't even know who he was. He just walked up to me, and he said, "Hey, man." He was an older gentleman, you know, and he said, "Hey, I used to weigh 225 pounds. I'm down to 185." And in my mind, I'm thinking, "Why are you telling me this?" And he said, "And it's because of you." And I said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Yeah, we had a conversation about 7 months ago, and you inspired me to do this." And then he said something to me that blew me away. That again, I don't think about a lot. He said, "You are the example." And I was like, wow. I mean, that was a huge compliment for me. And then he mentioned, he said, "But I need to start getting more of a positive attitude." Apparently, he must follow me on social media because he knows that I'm just big into being very positive. And he said, that I said, "Well, that's actually one of the most important aspects of anything is being positive." But I just wanted to share that, and that's part of my goal is to just inspire men and women,
Yeah, that's
anyone
awesome,
who's
man.
willing to listen.
So as a content creator myself, I know what that feels like when somebody comes up to you and is like, "Hey, this thing that you posted, or this conversation I had with you, or this subject you talked about really helped me." I'm getting a lot of people respond from the book like, "Wow, that book you cleared a lot of things up for me," and
Yeah.
it's you don't want to. We don't take it as like, "Oh yeah, look at me I'm doing so good," but
Right.
sometimes as a content creator, we put content out over and over and over again, and we're like, is this getting to anyone? Is this helping anyone? Is anybody listening to what I'm saying? And then when you finally,
Absolutely.
I feel like God sends those people, right? And this is just an assumption, so the uh, Instagram theologians don't take this out of context. But I sometimes feel like God sends those people to you to as like an encouragement, to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've said this from day one. I have some people, it's the strangest question, and you probably get this question too. And the question is, why do you care? And I'm like, why don't you care?
Yeah, that's the real
I
question.
ca- I care about people. Why is that weird to you? Why do you talk about these things on Facebook? Why do you care how someone lives their life? I want to see people be the best versions of themselves. I don't know. Why is that weird to you? But
Yeah,
yeah, you're right. So every once in a while, but I've always said this from the beginning. If I can change one person, one person's life, it's worth it for me.
that's a fact.
Just one.
I, I feel the same exact way, because I talk about some pretty touchy things sometimes, and
Hmm.
it's like,
I love it.
yeah, it's like people like, why you being judgmental? Why are you this? Why? I'm like, yo, I'm not.
Mm.
Like, I'm just pointing something out. You're
Yeah.
everybody's judgmental. I'm just public
Yes.
about it. Like
Right. Yeah.
I'm not.
You're saying what most people are thinking.
Yeah, I'm not sitting in my house talking with my friends about it. Like, I'm gonna put it out there so that way, Greg Kokel writes in his book called Tactics. He says it's not our job to change somebody; it's just to put a pebble in somebody's shoe. You know, you put a pebble in
Yeah.
their shoe, they keep walking on it, and eventually they're like, ugh. And then what you said to them eventually gets so, like, it annoys them so much that they'll do something about it, you know?
Right.
And that's you and me, Tony. We are to annoy people until they change their lives. That is, that is it. So,
This, yeah, this subject came up today at lunch, and my wife's friend Shelly, you know, I don't know if she said, "Why are you judging?" or why. I said, "It's not that I'm judging. I'm looking at someone that I know." I'm not gonna. It doesn't matter. But I was looking at someone I know that's just at this point, I would say morbidly obese, and my friend Shelly said, "Why do you let her live her life? Why do you get so frustrated?" And I said, "Because I care about her. I I don't want her to die. I'm frustrated because, for 15 years on Facebook, I've been hearing how she's going to lose the weight, and I'm witnessing her, eating something she probably shouldn't be eating, and people have reached out to me, and if people reach out to me, I help them, and it's free. How can I help? And I don't want to call it validation, but when that guy came up to me, it kind of let me know. You're right, John. People, you're changing lives, man. And I had a lady tell me the other day, private message me, and she said, or, no, a girlfriend, a girl at work, a coworker. She said, "Listen, anytime you feel down about the things that you're preaching out there, remember what that one lady just said to you on Facebook recently, that you are part of the reason why she's doing the things she's doing right now." And I'm like, 100%.
yeah, it's these little, we put ourselves out there in a way, and people think that these like negative things people say about us don't affect us and don't like take the wind out of our sails sometimes. And then all it takes though is that one little reminder from somebody of, hey, yeah, just keep doing what you're doing. You're
Yeah,
changing lives, and
changing lives.
it's like it shifts from the negative, like, dang,
Yeah.
why am I even doing this, to the positive. And you're like, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing this. So, man, I love all the stuff that you post. I love your thought provoking stuff. I love that you kind of punch people in the face a little bit, and keep doing it. So before we sign out, Tony, tell people where they can find you, where they can find your podcast, where the episodes you and Jen are doing, and just how can they get in touch with you?
Well, we haven't started a podcast yet, but we do have a YouTube channel. All they got to do is search. All they got to search is "Real Life with Tony and Jen," and they can subscribe there. I do have an Instagram, Old Man Muscle 01. We do have a TikTok, Real Life with Tony and Jen, and then I have another TikTok, Old Man Muscle 01. So if they want to, subscribe, that'd be great. My wife and I just started a YouTube channel a couple of months back, and we're basically just talking about real life with Tony and Jen, our real life, and how we have made it 22 plus years in a marriage that was not always perfect and still isn't perfect. And it's funny, you said something earlier. I think our last video was basically about, I got caught staring. I got busted, and how long is too long? And and our videos are kind of short. They're only about 6 to 8 minutes long. We've realized that there's only so much we can talk about. But if they want to find us, we're on YouTube and TikTok.
That's funny, man. I'm gonna have to go check that one out now. I'm sure it's hilarious.
It's pretty funny. And of course, I lost the argument. Yeah.
Yeah. You can't win that one, bro. You can't win it.
No. And I didn't expect to win it. And she was right, and I was wrong. And that's part of it.
It's awesome that you do that publicly, though. Like it's you got little old Jen here coming at buff old man muscle. That's awesome.
Right. Yeah.
But
it's a good combination.
Yep. So anyway, Tony, thank you so much for hopping on here, spending an hour with me and with the people in the chat. And if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify or whatever, thank you so much for being here. Now, just some quick announcements, guys. Don't forget to pick up the book, Law of Attraction, Gateway Drug to Spiritual Heroin. Don't forget to follow Tony on all of his social media. The links will be in the description. And with that being said, I can't
Can I
remember
say
what
one thing real quick?
Yeah,
One thing real
go
quick.
for it. Go for it.
I'm not a big book reader, but I'm finding your book so easy to read. And the crazy part is when I'm reading it, I hear your voice.
You're not the
Like I
first
hear
person who
you.
said that. Yo, you're not
Yeah,
the
I'm
first
like,
person who
why am I
said that.
hearing? Where is he? But it's no, it's a good. I'm telling you, I usually start reading a book and I'm like, nah, man, I'm halfway through, and I just started the other day, and it's a real easy read, and it's good, and it's eye opening, and I think everyone should get this book and read it if it's something that's you're interested in.
Well, thank you so much for that shameless plug. Truly,
No, 100% real.
truly appreciate it.
Yeah,
You're
man.
you're not the first person. I have a few people text me say, "Yo, it's like I'm listening to your voice in my head."
Yeah, yeah, it's
That's
crazy.
funny. All right, guys. With that being said, on Tony's recommendation, go get the book, and I'll see you guys on the next one.